Well, good evening and welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. It's Wednesday night. It's 8 o'clock. It's my favorite time of the week. And I can't wait to discuss the NBA, which will dominate our show tonight. The playoffs have started, and we've already got some fireworks. I have my distinguished and very expert panel with me this evening. And before we go a step further, let me introduce the guys before we get into the NBA playoff. So first, Mr. Larry Abels, one of my longtime friends, classmates from the old neighborhood, one of the best baseball, football, and basketball players in our neighborhood, quite frankly. Mr. Larry Abels, good evening. How you doing?
Good evening, Chuck. And I always look forward to being on this broadcast with you when you're the host.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, Larry. My one of the next panelists, let me tell you about the next panelist. We call him Earl Go-Go Rush. Let me tell you about Earl. The other night I was talking to him, and he was talking about one day, by the way, he's the dancingest dude in D.C., but one day he said he watched Fred Astaire dance on the tables. So the next time he went to the club, he tried a couple of his moves out of the table and went off really well. Ladies and gentlemen, let me not waste any more time and say good evening to Earl Go-Go Rush, otherwise known as the sports doctor. Earl, how you doing?
Charles, I'm doing great, and I'm looking forward to discussing sports with all you guys today. As Larry said, I also like it when you moderate. That seems to be the thing that you do the best on the show. And I look forward to participating in the show tonight.
Well, thank you, Earl. And last, but absolutely not least, our brother from the Midwest, who does have ties to Washington, D.C. It's our good friend, Mr. David Burnett, all the way from Indianapolis, Indiana. Ball State's finest. David, good evening.
And good evening to you, Chuck, Larry, and Earl. But let me clear something up. My connection to Washington, D.C. is 25 years long. So I will just say that. Even though I'm a loyal Hoosier and Cardinal.
There it is, Ball State. Okay, so listen, let's get into it. The NBA playoffs are off and running. They've been extremely exciting. But before we get into the heart of them, something happened the other day in one of the Sacramento Golden State games. Draymond had his ankle grabbed, then he stood on Sabonis and got ejected from the game. And then late last night, I guess the NBA has suspended him from the next game between Golden State and Sacramento. I want to go around the panel, and I'll start with you, David. And the question is this. A, what did you think of that? Do you think he should have been ejected? And more specifically, do you think he should have been suspended for game 3? Your thoughts?
He should have been ejected from the game, and which did happen. The suspension, in hindsight, and I am influenced by some of the dialogue that I heard on some of the talking heads on the sports shows today. Draymond is crazy. He's not stable. He's, in my opinion, one of the heart and souls of that team, if not the heart and soul of that team. But he can't control his emotions. He gets out of hand. All he had to do was release his foot from Domantas Sabonis, complain to the refs that Sabonis was holding his ankle, and that would have been that. But why do you have to demonstratively jump up and then step or stomp on your opponent? Ridiculous, just ridiculous. Coupled with the fact that the commissioner was in the crowd, and he was egging on the Sacramento crowd as well. He's got to know better. He's 32 years old. He's a great player, a great asset to Golden State, but he just can't help himself. So I believe his suspension was warranted.
Hey, Earl, what was your reaction, A, to the ejection, and B, the suspension, and how do you think that will affect game 3?
I think he should have got ejected. I think he should have got suspended. I also think that Sabonis should have got suspended. Suspended as well for holding his ankle. That's the only problem that I have about it. Other than that, to affect the game, obviously it'll affect the game because, as we've been arguing before the show, that Draymond is an integral part of the Warriors' game. But it will not affect them to the point where they will lose that game. I hope I answered all the questions that you addressed.
No, you did, and I don't think they're going to lose game 3 either. Hey, Larry, so again, I'd like to get your thoughts. A, on the ejection, B, on the suspension, and C, the antics in front of somebody just brought it up on the panel, the antics of the way he behaved after getting the ejection in front of the crowd and the commissioner and so forth. What's your reaction to all of that?
You know, I thought I'll start with the last thing, and he actually was egging the crowd on before they made the decision to suspend him. I just thought that was sort of silly. But the real problem I have, I think that, and I disagree with my good friend Earl a little bit. I don't think Sabonis should have been ejected. I think he probably should have been called for a foul. If you take Green's reaction out of it, he should have just been called for a foul for holding him. If you just look at what Green did, regardless of what happened, he stomped on him, then catapulted it off of him. So he should have been ejected, and I have no problem with the suspension. The only thing that makes me pause on the suspension is the NBA has allowed him to get away with a lot of crap, and he's always on the fence, and he might not know where the line is. They should have suspended him for other things that he did prior to the playoffs. So the timing of it might seem a little unfair to him because he probably wasn't put on notice because he was getting away with crap the whole year. His whole career, really.
Right. Ironically, the bad boys, Joe Dumars, who's in charge of handing out suspensions and fines and so forth in the NBA headquarters, I guess he, looked at that situation and the fact of his history, thought that perhaps it was a little bit over the top, and as a result has suspended him. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision for him, but you would think Draymond would know better, and that's a shame that it doesn't seem that like he does. And let me ask you this question. Well, just be a quick fire, rapid answer. Do you think Draymond's going to be on the Golden State Warriors team next year? His contract, I think, might be wrapping up here. Do you think he'll be on that team next year, David?
Yes, he's an important part of the Golden State Warriors. He's making it difficult for them to tolerate the misbehavior, but he's very important. So, I mean, the team is in an awkward position. They have embraced him at times when they should have scolded him and disciplined him, and they've allowed him to get away with things that other players would not. But that's also fuel for the team. So
right.
Steve Kerr has been in an awkward situation because Draymond is so important to the team, but he's also a potential detriment to the team. But I do think he'll be with the team next year.
Okay. Earl, what do you think? You think he'll be back?
Well, here's what I know. Kuminga is a great player. He needs to bulk up a little bit because he's going to be playing a lot more down low. I can tell you for a fact, they're not messing with Draymond no more. It's crazy. You don't need that kind of stuff. They got a lot of young people. They can't do what Draymond does, but you got to draw the line, man. Draymond got to go.
Yeah, he's going to demand a lot of.
He's punching people in the faces. He's stomping on people. As far as the commissioner, whoever made the rules, said they suspended him, you don't have to say history because of his history. You just can't stomp on somebody's chest, period. Whether he's done anything or not, he needs to be suspended for that. You just can't stomp on somebody's chest, man. Come on.
Larry, do you think?
No, Draymond will not be on
that ball club.
No.
Larry, do you think he'll be on that ball club next year? I know I've heard even preliminary talk about how much money he's demanding and so forth. Do you think he'll be back?
I tend to doubt it. He's an unrestricted free agent. They had a chance last year to extend him. They chose not to. They gave Poole a contract and the other players contracts. I think he's probably gone.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the series itself. Golden State is down 2-0. Sac. I think the national audience has had an opportunity to see Sac Sacramento Kings. They look really good. We've been introduced to DeAndre Fox, and I think that's his name, and Monk and Sabonis and the whole cast. It's been pretty exciting basketball, really good basketball, especially that game on Friday night. So, David, what's your reaction to Sacramento? How do you like them? What do you think about them? And do you think they'll win the series?
Let me start with your last question first. They will win the series. I think Golden State is near the end of their run. But I've been talking about Sacramento for a long time, as long as we've been talking about the NBA this season. Sacramento, unfortunately, is just one of those flyover type cities that the NBA does not promote, that doesn't get the kind of press that it needs and deserves. This year, the team was turned around. Mike Brown has proven that he can really coach. He's coach of the year. Domantas Sabonis is a rebounding freak, second in the league in rebounding, and he's been rebounding like that his entire career. He was a key component to changing and transforming that team. When he came over from the Pacers late last season, that marked kind of the beginning of what Sacramento has become. And I think adding Mike Brown as coach has kind of sealed the deal.
Yeah. He knows that team too, right? He was an assistant coach with Golden State. So he knows that team pretty doggone well, too. So I think that's an advantage. So, Earl, what do you think, A, of Sacramento, B, of the series so far, and C, who do you think is going to win this series?
I think it's a great series. I think Sacramento looks good so far. I'm still going with Golden State. I'm a Golden State fan, as well as a Laker fan. But I think Golden State will somehow figure it out and win. That's what I think.
Yeah. The games have been close.
It's only one problem. They have no one to come close to getting anywhere close to D'Angelo Fox. Kansas City is quicker than Golden State, and that's why Golden State, they're going to have to find a way to slow these guys down. They're quicker than Golden State. Nobody on Golden State team can come close to D'Angelo Fox. He can do whatever he wants to do, left-handed, right-handed, whatever he wants, inconsistent, whatever. He can do whatever he wants to do.
He's been
so tough. Golden State has a whole lot ahead of them, but I believe Golden State will probably win.
Golden State didn't have a great, season on the road in the first place, and so I was actually surprised how well they.
By the way, just a clarification, guys. It's De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron.
I was going to mention that when it was my turn.
What did I call him? DeAndre Fox. Yeah, De'Aaron Fox. So Larry, A, what do you think of the series so far? B, who do you think will win this series? And C, has Sacramento surprised you in terms of how good they are?
Okay.
Following them.
I've followed them most of this year. I think that they're playing like they did during the regular season. Both teams are playing like they're doing the regular season. I think a lot of times Golden State is kind of they're the standard everybody's used to, but both teams are playing pretty consistent to how they were during the regular season. Now, when we get to the playoffs, it's always different. And normally, I think the veteran team has an advantage. And I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. But given that two close games Sacramento won, I don't think Golden State will beat them 4 out of 5 times. So I think Sacramento is going to win this series.
Right. Wow. That's pretty heavy because usually a team that comes, to the playoffs for the first time, they haven't been there in 17, 18 years. You don't think they would perform as well against the champs. And quite frankly, they are doing that. And back to what Earl was saying, not only are they playing fast, their coach wants them to play faster. So here's my question. And again, another rapid fire around the panel. Where do you rank Fox in terms of point guards in the National Basketball Association? I'm going to start with Larry this time and go the reverse way. Larry, where do where would you put him amongst the point guards in the National Basketball Association? Just given what
my son Malik and I were having this debate earlier today, right? And I told him at this moment he's probably in the top 5 guards. And so I'll just leave it at that. My son disagreed. He didn't think so. But I told him he's got to get used to him playing. But right now, he's playing as well as anybody. And he's actually played well most of his career, but he's finally getting attention now. So I'll say he's in the top 5. Don't ask me to name who's better.
All of them. Right. Hey, Earl, what
point guards?
Point guards. I'm talking about point guards.
Yeah,
I know Earl talks about this quite a bit, and sometimes on our production show. Earl, where do you think right now Fox, in terms of where would you rank him in point guards in the National Basketball Association at this point?
I would rank him in the top 3.
Ooh, okay. Wow.
That's where I would rank him. If we had time, we could discuss. Each one could name 5, but that would take a lot of time. So it's going to take a long time for someone to even pick up over 3 better than him, and be reasonable.
Top 3. Wow. Yeah. Right. Wow. David, so what do you think of Fox, and where would you put him in terms of point guards in the National Basketball Association currently?
It's hard for me to say exactly where he ranks because I think it would be unfair to some of the other really good guards. All I can say is this. He's had a season long of success, an entire season of success. He's been an integral part of Sacramento transforming their fortunes this season. And you just have to kind of leave it like that. Without him, they wouldn't be where they are. Without Domantas Sabonis, they wouldn't be where they are. Without the kid that used to be with the Golden State Warriors, they wouldn't be where they are. Sacramento is much better than everybody has given them credit for being. And the reason, the reluctance, because they've had so many seasons of failure, it's hard for us to accept that they are now one of the top teams in the NBA, period. And they are.
I don't think people would argue against that. The record speaks for itself.
Well, the reason I say that is it's hard when all you hear, and the NBA has to take some responsibility for this, all you hear are the big market teams, LA, Lakers, over and over and over again. It's to the detriment of the NBA. And the ratings are not what they should be because they don't promote teams like they should. Sacramento should have been on national TV more times than they have been. The NBA should have reconstructed the TV schedule to make sure that this team gets some exposure. And that's on the NBA.
Yeah.
You got to remember, David, the NBA is nothing about money. Now, you're going to show the games to the areas that have the money.
I hear you, Earl. I hear you.
To the NBA, they think, as you said, ain't nobody going to watch Sacramento.
Well, but the fact is a lot of people are not watching the NBA now. The NBA's ratings are not what they should be.
Small market teams.
Well, first of all, no. If the NFL, if Major League Baseball, if other sports can get ratings, national ratings from smaller markets, then they can do so with Sacramento. It's about the excitement. It's about stars. Sacramento has stars. They have a good atmosphere at their arena. That was one of the real great markets in the NBA a long time ago, and now they've resurged. That's a story that should be told. That's all I'm saying.
Well, they might get more exposure next year.
I think it will be told. They had to prove themselves. I mean, Memphis is a perfect example.
Right.
They proved themselves last year. NBA is about stars. And the other thing is, some of these teams, like the Lakers and the Celtics, well, the Celtics have some young guys, but the Lakers and the Warriors, they're kind of historically. I think we're going to see the passing of the baton soon. That's really what I think. Right. And I think some of these teams that if they have success, just like Memphis had success last year, Sacramento has some success, they'll be on TV.
Well, I'm sure they're going to be on TV, and I don't want to belabor the point or take over this discussion. All I'm saying is the NBA has done a poor job historically with making sure that all teams or teams that are on the come are represented fairly. And the ratings have not been what they should be in the NBA. They just haven't.
Well, I tell you, that fellow Kentuckian with him, Monk, he has played really well in this series as well. In fact, that game I saw on Friday night, Monk had 30 off the bench. And I remember when he was with the Lakers, I don't remember him having a game with the Lakers, but of course I didn't watch every game with LA. Here's what I want to do. I want to pause real quick. I meant to tell our esteemed audience tonight, we're not going to talk about every game tonight in the series, unless the panelists want to bring up one or two, some of the other series. But we are going to focus on Cleveland and New York, Miami and the Bucks, and the Lakers and Memphis. And with that said, let's jump into the Knicks-Cavs series, which, by the way, it's 1-1 right now. The Cavs bounced back yesterday, played a really good game. So let me start with you this time, Earl. What do you think of the Cavs-Knicks series? Who do you think will win that series? And what do you think will be the key of that series that we should be watching to tip the scales one way or the other, either for New York or for Cleveland?
I don't think much of the series because I don't think much of either one of those two teams. Who do I think will win? At first, I thought Cleveland, but I think the Knicks will win. What will be the key? The key will be they have to do something that can attempt to try to stop Donovan Mitchell. Even though Garland last night just ran amok on them. I don't know whether he can be that way consistently, but they definitely have to put somebody to stop Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
that would be the key to me.
Yeah, he's tough. He's another one of those. I'll ask the panel later about what you think of where he fits into the point guard discussion. Larry, A, what do you think of the Knicks Cleveland series? B, who do you think will win that thing? And what is the key? What should we be watching that'll tip the scale one way or the other?
Okay. I think the series is great. Right now, completely up in the air. Knicks look dominant the first game, and look dominant the second game. The key will be whoever can make the most adjustments at the right time. And I don't know who's going to do that. Great series. Very competitive.
Yeah. I can't disagree with you there. Mr. Burnett, so who do you think will win that series? What keys should we be watching to see who will tip that thing one way or the other? And what have you thought of the series so far?
So far, very competitive. You have two teams that have not had a lot of playoff experience. I think Cleveland is going to win the series. Donovan Mitchell is, to me, the preeminent star of both teams. And since the NBA is a league of stars, the team with the biggest and best star, despite the Julius Randle and others on the Knicks, I think Donovan Mitchell is going to carry the Cleveland Cavaliers into winning the series.
Interesting. Very interesting. I thought he made an adjustment. I thought in game one, Mitchell had 38 points, played really, really well. But not that many other people got shots. And I thought last night he looked more like the facilitator, maybe like, let's get some other guys touches. I know I can score. Let me get my other guys off. And as a result, he didn't have the point total, but Cleveland looked a lot better, didn't they?
Yeah.
I have a twist. I'm gonna throw a twist. We didn't talk about this, but I'm gonna throw the panel a twist. Chuck and his money thing, right? So let me ask you this question: in terms of a price performer, Julius Randle makes $25 million. Brunson, who is a hell of a player, he's a much better player than I'd anticipate this year. Is a hell of a, so he gets $25 million. Randle gets $25 million a year. Both of them had signed contracts relatively recently. So together they make $50 million. From a price performing perspective, can you guys think of anybody else or another pair in the league that's as good a price performer in Brunson? And let me give you an example, just kind of tell you where I'm heading. Like a Zach Levine in Chicago and DeRozan in Chicago. Together, they make about $50 million. Can you think of a better price performing pair than the two of them? Does that question make sense? I'll start with you, David.
It's hard for me to say that there are a pair of reasonably priced players. And it's crazy to say reasonably priced when you're talking about guys making $25 million. Give me, I'll take a quarter of that, and I'll be happy. I'll take a tenth of that and be happy. I don't know. I can't come up with a pair that right. Come up really economically affordable and producing as well. I can't.
Yeah. How about you, Gogo? Any thoughts about that? I threw a curveball at the panel. I apologize for that. It hit me earlier today.
As we all know, I don't have much of a life. I don't lead much of a life, but I do have a little bit of a life. And I'm not trying to be funny, Charles. I just never even thought about anything like that. So to answer your question, I couldn't give you an answer on that because I've never even thought about what two players are there two other players priced evenly like these two. So I don't even think about it. I've never thought about anything like that.
Yeah, like I said, it's my sick thinking. How about you, Larry? Any thoughts on that real quick? And then we'll move on. No idea.
I don't really care what people make. Well, if they can play well, I'll take that.
Right. Okay.
Well, let's put the salaries in the paper, far as I'm concerned, as long as they show up and play.
All right. Okay. So let's talk about the Bucks and the Miami Heat. Miami's up 1-0 in that series. And oh, by the way, Giannis hurt his back, had to be pulled from the game one. And I don't know if he's been cleared for game two.
He's out.
Is that tonight?
I heard he was out.
He's out.
He's out for game two. Is that tonight? Is game two tonight?
Yeah.
So he's out. Wow.
Yes.
So again, let me start, with you, David. Who'll win that series? And by the way, I thought Milwaukee was an overwhelmingly favored going into that series. So David, who do you think will win that series? B, what keys should we be watching? And C, who will end up being the best player in that series?
The best player in the series, let me just start with your last question first, will ultimately be Giannis Antetokounmpo once again. He is durable, no matter what kind of injury he sustains, and even though he's not playing in game two, he finds a way to do it. Milwaukee is just a better team than Miami. Miami doesn't score effectively and efficiently, but they do have very good players. Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, as people like to call him, which I think is kind of a misnomer because Butler doesn't score like he should score.
Till the playoffs.
He should be a 30-point scorer in the regular season too. I think Miami, because Hero is hurt for Miami. He's a great shooter for them.
He's out.
And he's out. He broke his hand. So Milwaukee's a better team. Giannis will be back eventually, and Milwaukee will right the ship and win the series.
And win that series. Hey, Earl, same thing. Who do you think will win that series? And by the way, if Giannis is out tonight and Miami steals another game in Milwaukee, anyway, A, who do you think will win that series, Earl? B, who do you think the keys will be and will end up being the best player in that series?
I think Milwaukee will win the series. I don't have any keys. They're just flat out better than them. Even if Giannis doesn't come back in the series, they will still beat Miami. Miami has no one but Jimmy Butler. I'm not quite sure what David thinks that he should be scoring 30 a game, but that's not a series. There's a reason why you didn't want to. No, you did want to discuss this reason. I was wondering why you wanted to discuss this game.
Well, Miami is up 1-0, so
So what? That don't mean nothing.
Well, we'll see what happens if Giannis is not playing tonight. They might be able to steal this.
Miami has several very good players. Milwaukee has several good players, Charles. Miami doesn't have anybody but Buckets. Hero is hurt, and he's been some time. They don't have anybody. Bam, Adebayo, come on, whoever. They don't have anybody. They don't have anybody to score.
What's interesting? Interesting about Milwaukee? Saw today where Brooks Lopez. Did I say his name right? Brooks Lopez. He is the kid, the Jackson kid from Memphis is the defensive player of the year, and Brooks Lopez was the runner-up. Did we know he was that kind of a defensive player?
He has
guys run very
evolved
well.
his game.
If you follow basketball, you would know that
he guys run very well.
He's evolved his game over the last number of years.
As a matter of fact, he should have won the Defensive Player of the Year.
Brooke Lopez, huh? Yeah, that took me by surprise. Hey, Larry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I say he's pretty good offensively too.
I know. I knew of that. He's improved that 3-point shot, but I never knew he was. I never knew of him as a. Anyway, all right. I'm the only one on the panel that seems to have not known that. So, Larry, who do you think will win that series, Miami and Milwaukee? What do you think the keys are? And Larry, don't you think that the injury might influence this differently than it was a few days ago?
Oh, absolutely. The injury is everything. You know, Giannis has historically been a fast healer, and I thought he might come back today. And, you know, maybe about 3 hours before the game, they announced him out. I'm wondering how bad he hurts because that injury, if all of us have played sports, you fall on your tailbone. It takes a while.
Thank you, Larry.
It takes a while. It takes a while to get back. And I think that's a big issue. And the other part of it is if Middleton is, you know, he's struggled all year really to get back 100%. He plays well. I tend to agree with Earl. They'll beat them anyway, especially since Tyler Hero's a big part of their rotation. But I think it's going to be close. Giannis comes back. If Milwaukee wins tonight and Giannis comes back, I think Milwaukee will walk away with it pretty easy. If Miami wins tonight, we got a fight on our hands. I don't like having to win 4 out of 5 games.
Right. Interesting. Anything else about that series? I know, as Earl mentioned, it's probably not the most exciting series in the world. But I will say to you, Earl, that not only Bam, but this kid, Strus hits shots. Whoever, from 3, they shoot a lot of threes. That team, and they still have Lowry and Oladipo off the bench. So and they play hard. That's a hard play in Miami.
Has Oladipo played the series?
I know he hasn't played.
Has Oladipo played the series? So why are you adding someone who hasn't even?
Because I think they're shortening their bench. But now with Hero out, I think Oladipo will get in the game, and I think Oladipo is more than serviceable. And Lowry didn't even play a lot of minutes the other day either.
Oladipo has had a couple of years of just kind of self-reflection. For a while, for a couple of years, he was pretty much a big star, headed to big things, got hurt. But maybe this is a chance for him. With Hero out, he can, return to glory and be effective again.
Yeah.
Even if he was at his prime, David, or even if he was best he was before he got hurt, that ain't enough for Miami. That ain't enough for Milwaukee to beat Miami.
No, I agree with that. I agree with you on that.
So I don't even know why we even talking about it.
Let's see if Miami shocks this panel. We'll see what happens. Well, listen, this leads us to the 4th game series I wanted to talk about, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies against the Los Angeles Lakers. And boy, was that for Chuck Snowden. That game Sunday was just an exciting game, and they spread the points around on that team. So I'm going to start with you, David. Who will win that series? What do you think the keys in that series are? And how far can LA go, David?
LA can win this series, but I don't think they can win any other series. Of course, the national media and everybody else will push for them to win and will push for the ongoing resurgence of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, blah, 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 blah. So what? They can win this series. Ja Morant is hurt. Memphis is not effective without their star, even though they know how to play without Ja. Jaren Jackson, Defensive Player of the Year, he'll be effective. But LA will probably win the series.
Yeah.
But that's all they're going to win.
Yeah. Mr. Go-Go Rush, otherwise known as the Sports Doctor, what do you think of that Memphis-LA series? Who do you think will win it? And how far do you think they can go?
I agree with David. I think LA will win this series. I don't think they can go any further. What was the third question?
And And what do you think the key in this series will be?
LA has to continually get superb play from their bench. That's one of the keys. Like yesterday, two of their bench. I mean, well, the guard wasn't the bench, but their bench still played well.
They did.
And,
Rui and Reeves.
Rui, yeah. If Malik Beasley could happen to come through, it would make it even easier for them. But their bench has to come out and play well. LA's bench.
They're now more formidable, meaning they do have pieces now on that team more than I've ever seen them in the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see if they can stay healthy still. But it'll be interesting. Larry, what do you think of that series? Who do you think will win it? If you think LA will win it, how far do you think LA could go?
Okay, well, you said healthy. That's the key thing. LA has had kind of a charm experience this year. Gobert was suspended when they had to play their playing game. And then they moved to Memphis, who also had Adams and Clark out. They're part of two of their three big man rotation, and now Ja is hurt. All right. So a lot of things have broken their way, and traditionally they've been a team that's had injuries. If they can stay healthy, I think they get past this series. I'm not sure who they face next round. What are they, the number 2? They're facing the number 2 team. So they might next round will be tough for them, whoever they play. I guess it'll be either Phoenix or the Clippers. But I look for them to get out of it. And even if they play the Clippers, one of their players is hurt. So things might be working for them. They stay healthy. I think they can certainly get out of this round due to Memphis's injuries. So I'm looking for them to at least advance past this round. I'm not sure beyond that.
Yeah. All right. Now, before we move on, gentlemen, does any one of you all want to talk about the other 4 series at all? Is there any comments or any assessment or observations? I'll start with you, Larry, about the other 4 series.
Anything I want to talk about the other one that I think, along with Cleveland and New York, the one that excites me the most are the Clippers and the Suns. And Kawhi Leonard is playing out of this world. I mean, he made some plays last night. Unfortunately, one of their stars is hurt. I think they have a good team, even without Paul George. Kawhi is incredible to me. And he's playing a lot of minutes. He plays both ends of the court. He's starting to look like the guy that was in Toronto to me. He can go against Durant and Booker, but I'm not sure they have enough firepower to stay with them. But that series looks interesting.
The interesting thing about that game, I thought CP3 finally, the last 5 minutes of that game, he made plays and shots. He looked pretty good in the last 5 minutes of that game. Mr. Rush, is there any other series that has caught your attention or any comments you want to make about any of the other series?
No, Charles.
David, any thoughts?
The only thing I can say is that let me just take a look at the other series. Clippers win, Boston wins, Denver wins, Philly wins. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I have a question for David, though. In this last question, he said the NBA is constantly pushing the bigger markets. Well, my question is, David, do you know why they were?
Because the NBA, I think the NBA has a convoluted marketing strategy. And at some point, they've got to figure that the entire nation, people get tired of the same thing. That's all I'm saying, Earl.
No, I just want you to ask me, do you know why they are doing that?
They're doing it because it's an easy thing to do.
It doesn't have anything to do with because they want to deal with the markets that have the most viewers. That doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, first of all you have to do, forget the most viewers. The rest of the country matters. Their NBA ratings, for the most part, are like a 2-point-something rating. There are millions more viewers than they're trying to service at this point. And I just think they have an ineffective marketing strategy.
I think
I'll just stick with that.
Okay, so
I think
in other words,
NBA,
I'm not going to get an answer to my question, Charles. So you can just probably move on.
I can respond to your question. I disagree with David a little bit. I think they market stars, and we can go way back to the 70s when they tried to market all their teams. When their teams, a lot of fans went away from it, and quite frankly, because of the racial component, because of the complexion of their team. So they made a real big concerted effort to introduce the players as stars, and they're the only league that does that. Next to the NFL, I think they probably draw better than baseball. You don't even know baseball players when you see them. But the NBA has done a good job of marketing the stars. Now, at one time, San Antonio was on TV a lot because they had stars there and they won. And I think they kind of moved like that. But I think Sacramento will get their just due if they have a little success, just like Memphis. They're a star-driven league, and that's been their success formula. And
I hear you, Larry. I hear you. But if it's a star-driven league, you are absolutely right. But the fact is, if it's a star-driven league, make some stars out of the smaller markets. There are stars in so many teams that just get overlooked.
You don't think Ja is a star? You don't think Ja Moran's a star?
No, I didn't say he's not. He's not a star.
The team has to have a
Hear me
little
out.
success.
Hear me out. All I can do is look at the bottom line. The ratings are not what they should be. The NBA, regardless of whether my idea is right or not, they've got to find ways to bring that up. I think the NBA is at least 50% short of the kind of audience that they could have if they had a better marketing strategy. And marketing the stars only can go so far if you're not marketing the stars of the other teams as well. That's all I'm saying.
Do you think that the length of the season has something to do with how much people are watching the NBA? Meaning, now that we're in the playoffs, don't we think those numbers will rise? I mean, I haven't looked at them, but I know myself, I don't really start watching the NBA like I should until the playoffs. But when the playoffs start, I watch a lot of it.
Well, the length of the season, I mean, it's been 82 games for 60 years, 65 years. They've played 82 games. It is what it is.
Chuck, I think that the NBA is number 2 in watching. I don't know how David can, what he expects for it to be, but I think outside of football, nobody watches sports at that level. I mean, they certainly watch basketball more than hockey and baseball, and their players are more well known, and they've done a good job getting TV contracts. I don't know what potential they have there. And, it would be great. I agree with David. It'll be better the more stars and the more people you can get out there. But, I'm not sure that they're doing really anything that poorly right now, relatively speaking. NFL is a whole different animal.
I think we're going to see more of Sacramento going forward. I really do, because it's kind of they're a cool team to watch. I ain't going to lie. I was impressed by that. And I was impressed by the arena and the crowd. Yeah. Well, then we're going to find that out. Right. Agreed. Hey, look, before we leave the NBA, I have a question for the panel, an interesting question. And that is, there's a guard in Dallas right now. His name is Kyrie Irving, and he will be a free agent, or he is a free agent. And my question to the panel is this, and I'd be interested in you answering the specific question. The question is this: where will Kyrie Irving be playing basketball next year? And I'll start with you, David.
I'm just struggling not to be too flippant in my response, but I can't help it. I don't like Kyrie Irving. I could care less about whether he plays ever again. He's a coach killer. He's a team killer. He's a flashy player. I'm not going to say he doesn't have talent. He has supreme talent, but his ego, something isn't clicking correctly with him. So I don't care. I could care less whether he plays or not.
Earl, that's all right. Earl, where do you think Kyrie Irving, in your opinion, where will he be playing next year?
If it's not with Dallas, he won't be playing next year.
Wow. Okay. Mr. Abels, any thoughts on where Mr. Kyrie Irving will be playing next year?
Can't give you an exact location, but with the highest bidder. I'm pretty sure Dallas is going to try to keep him, and they may offer him a lot of money. I'm not sure who else is really going to offer him that much, but he's so good. I think somebody will take a shot on him.
So you think really? Okay. When you say take a shot, you're talking about a $200 million plus.
Well, offer him a deal. I think Dallas. I don't think Dallas is going to be the only team bidding for him.
Really?
But I think Dallas will bid a lot for him because they gave up a lot for him.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm just curious to that. So any other last comments before we leave the NBA and get into the National Football League a little bit? All right. Well, let's get into that. Let's get into the National Football League. A couple things has happened this week I wanted to touch base and get you guys' thoughts on. The first one is it's near and dear to some folks who live in Washington and who spend in Washington. And it looks like that the Commanders have been sold. And it sounds like they've turned it over to the NFL folks for their evaluation. So that's going on. And I'd just like to get the panel's thoughts on two things. The sell, and really the other point is there was allegedly a $7 billion offer in there as well. What happened there, if you have any insights or thoughts on that? David?
I have no insights on Brian Davis's bid. All I can say is what I've read, and it suggests that some of the money that he was allegedly was coming up with was coming from Saudi Arabia, which may have really scuttled the deal. That said, I think it's good that Washington, a city that I lived in for 25 years, is getting rid of Dan Snyder. He's been a toxic influence on that team. The community turned sour. When I moved to the Washington area in 1986, the Washington Redskins were the team in that market, and in fact, were one of the most popular teams in the NFL. To see what has happened to that franchise is scandalous. And what Dan Snyder has done is criminal. It's criminal, and he's a criminal.
Mr. Rush, what did you think of that? What do you think of the sale of the Commanders? And do you have any additional insights on why the other bid of $7 billion versus $6 billion was not taken seriously?
Let me address your latter situation first.
Okay.
I don't know Brian Davis. I don't know anything about his financial situation. I've seen things where he's been kind of shaky with his finances, his payback history and all that. I don't know the numbers. But I'm going to copy off David Burnett. I don't like the Commanders. I don't like anything about DC sports team, so I don't care.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I'll come back to you with a follow-up question, Earl. Anyway, Larry, what do you think about the sale of the Commanders? And any additional insight outside of David and Earl's thoughts why the $7 billion deal wasn't taken seriously?
I have a couple of thoughts, but please excuse me for asking a question. I know you're the host, but I want to ask David a question. Who do you like better, Dan Snyder or Kyrie Irving? Or who do you hate more? Either way.
In fairness, Dan Snyder is a snake. He's horrible. Kyrie Irving is an angel by comparison, and you know how I feel about Kyrie Irving.
Wow.
Dan Snyder.
I know how you feel about Snyder.
Snyder is the lowest of the low. I was never a Washington Redskins fan, no matter how long I lived in the area, but I appreciated how the community embraced that team. And I think there's at least hope now. I'm angry that Dan Snyder is going to collect a $6 billion bounty for being such a despicable, horrible, cruel individual. So I hope I answered your question, Larry.
I think so. When you said Kyrie Irving was an angel compared to him,
Well, throw one more person in the mix.
Zion?
Yeah, Zion. Who do you hate the most, please, Zion?
I don't hate Zion. I don't hate him. But he's played less than half the games that he's supposed to have played in the 3 or 4 seasons he's been in the league. He's been a bust, a big, fat bust.
I figured he might like Zion a little better.
But I do like Zion better than Kyrie, even though Zion has barely played in the NBA. That said, y'all don't get me started on this.
Let me ask the next question.
Too late. It's too late. We already got him started. Yeah.
That was the whole thing.
So
your question about
any additional.
I was going to respond to your question about the Commanders. Like Earl said, we don't really know any of these people. So it seems to be, I think one thing here, living here, I think people think this sale is a lot further than it's been. But this is essentially a non-exclusive offer. So what has happened is the Bank of America approved the bid by Harrison Company. Now they're looking at Brian Davis. If they look at Brian Davis and they approve it, then that'll be sent to the NFL. And the NFL will have to sign off who they want the most. And a lot of people looking at Brian Davis, for some reason, it seems like, and I've read things about his financial, and they don't believe he has the money. But if the Bank of America approves him and the NFL approves him, I'm not sure why Snyder wouldn't take an extra $1 billion. Harris has 17 people on his. He's not as rich as, or he's not putting up as much of his money as we thought too. He has 17 people on his team. He's only purchasing 30%. There's another guy purchasing 12%. Magic Johnson's purchasing 4%. So it's 14 other people purchasing the rest of it. But I think I want the team to be sold. I think we're a ways away from that. So I'm like somewhat cautiously optimistic. I'm hoping the team is sold. I hope the Nationals is sold too, but that's not part of the question you asked.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know any of the owners, so I'm kind of neutral about all of them. Whoever has the money should get it.
All right. So another thing happened in the National Football League this week, and I'd love to give you guys thoughts. And we've talked about it as it relates to another part of something we've already been talking about, and that is, or we've been talking about previously, and that is Mr. Jalen Hurts just signed a huge mega deal. I think it was a 5-year deal. On average, I know we can debate this, it was about $51 million a year. What's your thoughts on that signing? But really, more specifically, do you think that impacts Lamar? And if it does, Lamar's situation, if it does, does it help him or hurt him? I'll start with you, David.
Jalen Hurts deserves every amount of money that he can get.
Yep.
He not single-handedly, but he was instrumental in leading the Eagles to a nearly undefeated season until he got injured in the last couple of games. He took them to the Super Bowl. I love a transformational story such as his. He's a guy that got bounced out of the University of Alabama, went to Oklahoma, got drafted in the 2nd round by the Eagles, wasn't expected to really be a contributing member of that team, but has surprised everyone with the kind of success, and he's now become a bona fide star. Is it going to affect Lamar Jackson? To a certain degree, it might. Baltimore and Lamar are at loggerheads in terms of a contract. Lamar, I think, probably, more that we find out, he was offered a contract very similar to Jalen Hurts that he turned down. I think what's hurting Lamar is the fact that he's been injured a couple, he's missed 10 total games over a 2-year period, and all have been at the end of each of those seasons. So missed 5 games last year, 5 games this particular past season. It's hard. And coupled with the fact that it's rumored that he wanted a fully guaranteed contract, the NFL ain't having that. Only the Cleveland Browns have offered Deshaun Watson that deal, and nobody else is going to get it, no matter who it is. And Lamar, I think, is fooling himself to think he's going to get a fully guaranteed deal. And right now, nobody else is playing. Nobody.
On a side note, do you think Burrows and or the kid with the Chargers, are they going to get fully guaranteed deals?
No.
In your opinion?
No. They will not get fully guaranteed deals either. But they will leapfrog over Jalen Hurts, and I think both of those guys, Burrow, will get about $55 million as an annual deal. It's just the way it works. Eventually, we're going to see players within 3 years. The top quarterback will make $65 million per season on an annual deal.
Earl, any thoughts about the Jalen Hurts deal, and do you think that will impact Lamar's deal one way or the other, good or bad, and maybe get the Lamar Jackson deal done now that there has been a contract made?
I don't think that deal has any effect on Lamar deal. I just don't think it does.
What do you think of Hurts' deal?
That's my answer. I don't think it's going to affect Lamar deal. That's my answer.
Okay. Well, how do you like the Hurts deal itself? I mean, you think that was a good deal for Hurts?
I thought it was a great deal for Hurts. I thought it was a great deal. I thought he deserved all the money. Any player deserves all the money they could get. But I'm not mad at him, for sure. You know. Now hold on. Let me think about what I'm just saying here. I don't want to be talking out the side of my mouth. It has to have some type of effect on Lamar's contract. Right. For me to say it won't have any effect at all, that doesn't even make sense. That's just dumb. So I scratch all of that. It will have an effect on it. Which way, I do not know, but it will have an effect. For me to say it's not going to have an effect, that's just dumb. That's just dumb.
I don't know either which way myself. Larry, any thoughts on the Jalen deal? And do you think that'll push Lamar and the Ravens, or Lamar and whoever, closer to getting a deal done now that they have this contract done?
I think it helps set the market. You know, if I were Lamar, I might want to wait and see what the other two quarterbacks, if they're signed early, because I would use all of that as a basis. You know, like as a market study, and this is what the market's paying this year. And because I think both sides actually wanted it. I think Lamar wanted it as well as the Ravens. But I think if I'm Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts has had one good season. You know, I've had a little more. So I would start there, but I would probably say, and rightly, you know, I think the Ravens had a right to say, you know, we're concerned about your injuries, as Davis brought up. But I can just see it as to your original question, I think it will help set the market rate, the going rate for this year, because that's what both teams wanted to see, both sides wanted to see. Now, with respect to, was it a good deal for Hurts? Absolutely, great deal.
Do you guys
he's only have one good year, but he's got paid?
Do you all think besides Patrick Mahomes getting one, will there ever be another completely guaranteed contract?
You mean besides Deshaun Watson?
Yes.
Oh, you mean will Patrick Mahomes get one in the future?
Oh, I know he will. I'm just saying he can get whatever he wants when he renegotiates his deal. Do you think there will ever be all guaranteed?
I think quite possibly it
over 200. Over 200.
Yeah, because there was already one with the kid from the Minnesota Vikings. That was fully guaranteed.
He's not making over 200,000.
No, well, I know you added that at the end. I was saying this before you had added the 200 million part.
Well, you know, to what David keeps saying, the contracts will go up every year. The reason they'll go up every year is because of those TV contracts. So I think somebody will get it and making a lot of money. The TV contracts go up every year. The salary cap goes up every year.
Yeah. Whoever gets the fully guaranteed contract will be a quarterback, and this is the way the NFL is made. Right. And I think because of what Larry just said, the TV contracts continue to go up and up and up, and the NFL is the most popular sport in America, and the TV contracts. Everybody wants in, you know. I mean, what can you say? Everybody's willing to pay.
Well, listen. Again, a home run. The panel did a great job tonight. We went over the NBA playoffs. We talked about the NFL. You guys were absolutely outstanding. I love your thoughts and views on a lot of the different topics we've touched on. So we are going to wrap it up. And before we do, I want to go around the panel and see if we have any closing remarks. The only thing I want to say, though, before I turn it over to you guys, is happy birthday. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had his birthday this week. He was my first GOAT, and I just wanted to give him a quick shout out. The original Lucius Alcindor, who later became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I just wanted to say happy birthday. Larry, any closing comments?
Thank you for the compliment about the panel, but I think, we'll throw that back to you. You did such a great job as usual as hosting, so it's really on you. Only thing I'll say is that the Memphis Grizzlies are up by 14 now in the third quarter.
I wish you hadn't said that because I was recording the game, Larry. Go. Any closing comments?
No. Trying to.
And Mr.
I have a lot of comments, but we had a great show. I'm gonna quit while I'm in here. I don't want to bring no trash into the show, so no, I don't have.
Well, we'll have the production meeting right afterwards. I mean, we'll have our own private meeting afterwards, so we can get into it then. David, any closing comments?
I do have a closing comment, and this is regarding the NFL and DeMar Hamlin. DeMar Hamlin has been cleared to play. Some would say, why should he play? He's a safety who literally, cardiac arrest, died on the field, Buffalo playing the Cincinnati Bengals. He's Buffalo safety, and now he's ready to go back. These doctors have cleared him. Apparently, the impact was one of those rare 1 in a million occurrences, and he says he's ready to play again. I pray for his safety, but if he's ready to play, and if the doctors say that it's okay, that it was a rare occurrence in sports, power to him. More power to him, and I'm glad he's still alive. I'm glad he's doing well, and I'm glad he will try to play again, even though you worry about circumstances like that.
Good comment, David. Very good comment. So on that note, everyone, thanks again for participating, panel. You guys were great. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for comments that people put in the chat. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the playoffs, everybody. Take care.